Are you listening to what your brain and your body is telling you?
You're a voice actor. You're an entrepreneur. You're a VOPRENEUR. Welcome to the Everyday VOPRENEUR podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover.
Your voiceover demos are your #1 marketing tool, and you need to display them on your website in a way that works on any device or browser. VoiceSam is the player producers love. Plus, it offers tools that can improve your email signature, quickly create a one-page website, and much more. Sign up now at voicesam.com/MarkScott and get 3 months of the base player for the price of 1. That's voicesam.com/MarkScott for full details and to sign up.
The VOPRENEUR podcast. Hey, it doesn't suck.
Not as funny as Conan. Not as cute as Seth Meyers. Not as smart as Colbert. But he's one of us, and that counts for something. Here's Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOPRENEUR.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover. I'm Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOpreneur, and you know what's about to go down. Actionable, practical advice that is meant to help you to grow with the business and marketing aspects of your voiceover business. Although, admittedly, this week's episode is going to have a little bit different flavor, but I still think that the actionable, practical advice is going to be there. Before we dive in, I want to remind you that you can listen to any episode anytime by jumping onto the website at VOPRENEUR.com. And of course, you can subscribe so you never have to miss another episode again. Look for the Everyday VOpreneur podcast wherever fine podcasts are given away for free, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Amazon Music. It's everywhere. So this week, I want to talk to you about the importance of listening to your body and your mind. And I was trying to think of a better way to say it, but I haven't come up with it yet. Maybe it'll pop into my brain as we're working through this episode. But let me tell you a story so that we get a sense of where this is all coming from. You may have noticed that last week there was not a new episode of the podcast because if you follow me on Facebook or if you are a member of the VOPRENEUR Facebook group, you would know that last week I was on vacation. Not that I got to go anywhere, not that I really got to do anything, but I was on vacation. And I did not realize how badly I needed that week of vacation until I was just about to give it away. So what happened in Ontario, Canada, which is where I'm based, we have March break, just like most of the rest of the free world. At least North America has March break, right? But because of what is going on with COVID in Ontario, our March break got canceled. They decided to move it to April because at the time of the March break in March, when it was supposed to happen, we were under a pretty strict lockdown. So they said they were going to move the break to April. So I canceled the week that I had taken off in March. We were supposed to go visit family, my wife's family, that we haven't seen in over a year, thanks to COVID. So I canceled that week of vacation, let my schedule fill back up again, figured if I wasn't going to be taking time off, I might as well be working. And then I booked a week off for myself in April, which was when the new April break was going to be. So the kids were going to be off school. So once again, we were going to go and try and visit my wife's family that we haven't seen in over a year because of COVID. We were supposed to be out of the lockdown by then. Except just a couple of days before April break rolled around, we got put back into yet another lockdown, an even stricter lockdown. You've probably heard some things on the internet. Maybe you've read some things. I don't want to go too much into detail. I don't want to make this political or anything like that. But look, essentially in Ontario, Canada right now, at the time of this recording, you can literally be stopped by the police and fined $750 minimum if you do not have a good reason for being out of your house. And a good reason for being out of your house is that you're going for an essential trip, which would be considered grocery, pharmacy, or healthcare. So literally, if you are out of your house for any other reason than one of those three things, the police now have the power to stop you, question you, and give you a minimum $750 fine. That was the breaking point for me. I'm not somebody who gets political. I'm not somebody who gets necessarily vocal when it comes to certain issues, but that was the one that did me in. That was when I knew I was spent. I had nothing else in me. Everybody has dealt with COVID differently. We've all had our breaking points throughout the entire length of the pandemic. Some of us have kept it together better. Some of us have kept it together longer. Some of us have melted down entirely. You know where you are. You know what you're dealing with. You know what your struggles are. I had been doing pretty good up until that point. I have a new baby who just wants to see her family and whose family just wants to see her. And we are literally not allowed to leave our house for anything now. So, because of the fact that that new lockdown order was put into place, I had to cancel the trip that we had planned up north again. Fortunately, I was able to get a refund on the hotel, but canceled the trip. And once again, I said, well, this is stupid. I guess if we can't go anywhere, if I'm going to be home, I might as well be working. There's no point in blocking off my schedule, whatever. So that was what I was going to do right up until all these new restrictive lockdown measures came into place. And then I hit my breaking point. And it wasn't like, there wasn't like a moment where I just snapped. I didn't curl up in the fetal position on the floor and start to cry or anything like that. But I did sit down with my wife and say, I'm done. I said, I'm just done. I don't even know how to think anymore. I don't even know how to respond anymore. I don't even know how to react anymore. Obviously, I am not a doctor. I am not an epidemiologist. I am not a scientist. I'm not even a politician. But I feel like I'm a man that has at least a slight capacity for logic and reason. And none of the decisions that seem to be getting made in our province right now follow any sort of path of logic or reason. There is a greater divide that is taking place in the province right now. There's a greater divide that is turning us into sides, which we've never had anything like that here before. And I just said, I'm done. I just can't do it anymore. I need a break. And so fortunately, I already had the week booked off at that point. I hadn't opened up my calendar yet. And so I just told my wife I was done. I said, I need a break. I got to take the week off. I said, obviously we can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. I don't care if I sit around at home in my underwear and watch movies for a week. I just need a break. And I can't remember the last time that I was at that point. I don't even know if I've ever been at that point. I don't even know if I've ever admitted that I was that point. I understand the challenges of mental health, and I understand that there's such a movement now to guard your mental health and all of that sort of stuff, and I respect it. I work with voice actors to help them to recognize things like that, but I've never felt like I was at a point in my own life or in my own journey where I was like, I got to take a mental health day. I've never been that guy. I became that guy last week, and I was like, I'm done. I got to take a mental health day. I love coaching. Coaching is a passion of mine that I didn't realize was there until I actually started having the opportunity to do it. And the more that I do it, the more that I love it and the more passionate that I get about it. And having the opportunity to work with voice actors and helping them to solve problems and helping them to have breakthroughs, helping them to grow their businesses, helping them sometimes just to see things from a different perspective, because often we are so close to our own stuff that the difference maker can be having an outside set of eyes looking in that can show us what we need to do differently. And so I absolutely love it, but I have also come to realize that it can be incredibly emotionally draining. And I did not recognize that, I think, until everything came to a head here a week ago. I feel like I always need to be on. I feel like I always have to have the right answer. I spend 8 hours a day, sometimes literally listening to voice actors work through their problems and their struggles and their trials and their tribulations and trying to help them to work through all of those things and be an encouragement for them and be a support for them. And like I said, I love it and I'm passionate about it, but I didn't realize how draining that can be sometimes because of the fact that you do have to feel like you always have to be on. One of the reasons why I've built the reputation that I've built, one of the reasons why I guess I'm respected in the industry is because of my authenticity. This is it right now, right? This is me being authentic. I don't have a script that I'm following. I sat down in the booth to record, and this is the only thing I knew I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the importance of listening to your brain and your body. I didn't even really know what that meant. I just knew that I went through something, and I know that other people are going through that same thing, and I know that sometimes there can be a stigma attached to that. I shared a post in the Facebook group, and I talked about the fact that I'm supposed to be, the tough, brave former firefighter who's not supposed to have issues like this. But man, I'll tell you what, last week I just hit my breaking point and I was done. And one of the things that I guess I was the most thankful for was that I was a voice actor when that happened. Because if I was still working in radio, you don't get to take a week off just because you need to take a week off. You don't get to take a day off just because you need to take a day off. So, if you want to talk about the perks of being your own boss, there was one of the perks. I reached a point where I recognized that I was done and I was able to do something about it. I said to my wife that I needed to do something that didn't have anything to do with anything. That's what I told her. And I didn't really know what that meant. I just said, I gotta do something that has nothing to do with anything. I didn't want to work on work. I didn't want to work on home renovations. For those of you that have been following the podcast, you know that we've been undergoing some very extensive home renovations for the last year. We did our kitchen, which ended up, we started it just before the pandemic, but we ended up having to live through the pandemic, the first part of it, without a kitchen. Then we had an unexpected baby announcement. And so then we had to do even more renovations to get ready for a baby. And I did a lot of that work myself. And so I just said to her, I'm done. I can't help anyone. I can't talk to anyone. I can't do anything. I don't want to think. I just need to stop. And she got it. She understood. And I think that she really understood because I don't think that she's ever heard me say anything like that before. So I went out to my workshop and I built a table, which was the most random thing in the world. But I had some old scrap pallets, wood skids, crappy wood that I was able to reclaim. I joked on Instagram, I think it was, that I was channeling my inner Ben Napier. For those of you that are hometown fans, you'll understand. I found some old wood and I was going to reclaim it. I was just going to run it through the planer and clean it up, which is basically what I did. And I spent a couple of days building this table, which I don't actually really need, but I just needed to do something that didn't have anything to do with anything. And that was what I came up with. It allowed me to go to the shop and be fully detached, to escape from it all, and to just do something for the fun of it, to do something for the heck of it, to do something with no obligation, to do something with no commitment, with no responsibility, just hang out and do something. And I needed that so bad. And I know that those of you that are connected with me on social media, you saw me throughout the week posting pictures, my vacation updates or whatever. And did I do some voiceover jobs last week? Yep, I did some voiceover jobs last week while I was on vacation. What can I tell you? I love doing voiceover. And when my clients need me and they're quick and simple jobs, and let's be honest, I was on vacation, but I was still home, I wasn't going to say no. And I didn't feel any pressure from any of that because it's something that I love to do. I didn't have to think. I just had to get in the booth and, talk. Not so bad. But some of you were giving me a hard time about that. But it was nice to be able to just do that, because last week was about doing whatever the heck I wanted to do. I spent some days just hanging out with my kids. We sat on the couch. We watched some HGTV. We watched some baseball. We made soft pretzels. We cooked dinner. We played outside. We just, we hung out. I spent that time alone in the shop. I went for walks. I just recognized that I was at my breaking point. And I guess the reason why I wanted to do this episode, because it probably seems really random and it probably feels like it has nothing to do with business and marketing, is because sometimes I think that there's this misconception that these sorts of things only happen to you, right? That they don't happen to, such and such a coach or such a voice actor or such and such a person because they've got it all together. They've got it all figured out. They've their life is perfect. We do a really good job of representing ourselves in a perfect light on social media. It's one of the things that stinks about social media. Nobody ever posts the crappy stuff, right? Or most people don't post the crappy stuff. And so part of it, I guess, for me wanting to share this is just to say, hey, you know what? The struggle is real. I understand the struggle. I have the struggle too. So that was part of it. Just to kind of pull back the curtain and say, look, man, don't for a second think that I got all the answers, that I got it all figured out, that my life is perfect, that, I'm fully together and all that sort of stuff. Because, hey, apparently I can have a breakdown too. And breakdown's not the right word because it wasn't like that. Part of the reason why it wasn't like that is because I caught it before it got to that. So, I guess there's that. But just recognizing that it's okay to say, I'm done. It's okay to take a few days off. It's okay to stop. It's okay to disconnect. It's okay to unplug. It's okay to take the pressure off. Part of what I have to do as a coach is I have to help people to find a balance, because sometimes we can take it too far. Every time something happens to us that doesn't go the way that we want, we can let that become an excuse to not do work because we just need to take some time off for me. And while I think there's certainly something to that, we can also take it too far where it becomes an excuse. And I don't want it to become an excuse. And I also don't want to come across as an insensitive jerk. So bear with me while I try to find the balance here. But that is part of what I have to do. Part of when I'm working with voice actors is I have to help them recognize, okay, what is going on in your life right now is absolutely legitimate, and you need to give yourself some grace, and that is okay. But you also can't allow yourself to stay stuck there, right? You feel the feels, you deal with the feels, and then you got to move on. You got to get on the other side of the feels. That's what this last week was about for me. At the beginning of the week, I was feeling a lot of weird feels. I had frustration. I had some anger. I had a lot of confusion. I had hurt. I'm one of those people that actually loves my family, and I miss my family. My dad retired last month, and in May he is moving to Nova Scotia, and so I wanted to be able to spend as much time with him as possible before he goes, and I wanted him to be able to spend as much time with Kaylee, who is his only biological granddaughter. My other two daughters are they're stepkids. I've never called them my stepdaughters, but they're stepdaughters. And I wanted him to be able to spend as much time with her as possible. And now, even though he lives 20 minutes away, thanks to the government and the restrictions, I'm not allowed to see him. And so I will not be allowed to see him. He will not be allowed to see his granddaughter before he goes to Nova Scotia next month. And then once he's in Nova Scotia, who knows when we're going to be able to see each other again, because COVID is just out of control here and the restrictions are out of control here. It could be another year before I get to see my dad again and before he gets to see his baby again. And, that was weighing really heavy on me. So that the beginning part of last week, that was a lot of what it was about. It was about feeling all these feels. It was about recognizing that I'm ticked off about some stuff, that some of it is wearing me down. Some of it is sucking the life out of my soul. Some of it is making me angry. Some of it is making me frustrated. So it was feeling that, recognizing that I was spent, recognizing that I was on the verge of some sort of meltdown, breakdown, whatever, stopping everything, working through some of that stuff, giving myself a little bit of time, and then by the end of the week, I was relaxed, I was happy, I was at ease. It doesn't make some of the stuff any easier. I certainly still have some frustrations and some confusions, but I don't feel, that feeling when that energy inside of you is just bubbling and you're just like, for somebody, maybe for you, it bubbles to the point where you just break down and cry, or maybe it bubbles to the point where you put your fist through a wall, or maybe it bubbles to a point where you shut down completely. Everybody deals with it differently, but I'm sure that you probably understand what I'm saying when I talk about that feeling. Like you can just feel it bubbling up through your body until it's right at the top of your head and it feels like your head's going to blow off. I got there, and then I decompressed, and I feel better. And I was energized to come back to work this week. I was excited to get back to the office and get back into the routine. And admittedly, I had not felt that way for a little while because of everything that was going on. So here we are, 20 minutes in. I'm still not sure that I entirely know what the point of this episode is, but hey, if you stuck with me, bless you. You know, I hope that this has spoken to you in some way, because it does have to do with your business, right? You can't do your business if you're not okay. And if you're not okay, maybe you got to do something to help make yourself okay. And like I said, COVID has been tough, right? I mean, I don't know where you're at and what you were told. I still think back to at the very beginning of all of this when we were told that we were going into a 2-week lockdown to flatten the curve. A 2-week lockdown to flatten the curve. Have you seen that GIF that people share on the internet that has the senior Rose from Titanic standing on the deck of the ship, and the caption underneath of it is, "It's been 84 years." You know what I'm talking about. Even if you haven't seen the GIF, you know what I'm talking about because you've seen Titanic. Every time I think about that 2 weeks to flatten the curve message from last March, now I think about that GIF. It's been 84 years since we started our 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Everybody's dealing with it differently. Everybody's working through it differently. It's impacted people on different levels. Some voice actors have seen their businesses boom. Some voice actors have seen their businesses bust. Some voice actors have found opportunities. Some voice actors have lost opportunities. Some voice actors have said, screw it, not really dealt with it. Some are like me, and they're missing their family, and they haven't seen them in a year, and they're separated by a state, or they're separated by a border, or they're separated by an ocean. And so it's been tough. For the first time since the pandemic started, those of us in Canada are sitting down looking at the U.S. with jealousy and envy, which is a very unusual position to be in. But I'm so grateful that you guys have got your programs together. You're getting your vaccines rolled out, and that is making a difference. And, you know, I have my fingers crossed that the same thing is going to happen here. Like I said, I don't want to turn this into something political. I don't want to turn this into, more debate about COVID and whether you believe it or don't believe it, or think it's a massive government conspiracy, or you're afraid to leave your house and are never going to go anywhere again, whatever. I don't want to go into that. All I want to say is listen to your body and your brain, because what we're going through is real. The stress that you have probably felt from it is real. It is not the only thing that is going on in the world right now either that is causing stress, that is causing anxiety, that's causing frustration and pain. So make sure that you are listening to your body and your brain. And if you feel like it's telling you that you're done, then just be done for a little while, and that's okay. Your business is not going to collapse because you take a week off, right? Your business is not going to collapse because you take a couple days off. And if you've got somebody to talk to, if it's a spouse, a significant other, a family member, I've had conversations with my pastor. If you've got to talk to a professional, don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. Have those conversations so that you can feel those feels, recognize them, acknowledge that they're real. Just don't let yourself get stuck there. That's what I did. I'm not a therapist, not a psychologist. I'm not even particularly smart, if we're being honest. But what I wanted to do is just share from my experience, because I think there are people out there that this will speak to. And if that's you, then I'm grateful that we had this opportunity to have a little chat together. And I hope that this slightly unorthodox episode of the podcast speaks to you. I feel 100% better. I feel like my batteries are recharged, like I am refreshed and I'm ready to go. And I needed that. And if you need it, I hope you'll give it to yourself. And if you need someone to talk to, I'm here to listen to. So there you go. Listen to your body and your brain. It's pretty smart. It's worth listening to. Seldom is it wrong when it's telling you to do something. Thanks so much for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.
The Everyday VOPRENEUR Podcast, Available everywhere fine podcasts are given away for free. Mostly, we think.
Your voiceover demos are your number one marketing tool, and you need to display them on your website in a way that works on any device or browser. VoiceSam is the player producers love. Plus, it offers tools that can improve your email signature, quickly create a one-page website, and much more. Sign up now at voicesam.com/MarkScott and get 3 months of the base player for the price of one. That's voicesam.com/MarkScott for full details and to sign up.
And scene.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging in. Thanks for hanging out. Want more VOpreneur goodness? Jump online at VOPRENEUR.com.